Most people love nothing more than opening their curtains and being greeted by a blue sky sunny day. I know I do. Throw in a rainbow or two and we know that Mother Nature is in a good mood, right? But what happens when she gets angry? When she starts to roar? Believe us when we say that hell hath no fury like Mother Nature, and the clips you're about to watch are proof of just how far she'll go to get her message across. Call it global warming, call it climate change, Mother Nature calls it a disaster, and she's blaming us humans. So what does she do to warn us? She unleashes her anger, all guns a-blazing, and throws a disaster our way. From earthquakes to tornadoes to weather so hot it actually sets the land alight, Mother Nature certainly doesn't shy away from trying to get our attention when we've done something wrong. So without further ado, here's 15 times Mother Nature got angry. Massive flood in India. In 2018 in India, the monsoon season caused severe flooding and landslides. Unfortunately, it was game over for this one tourist bus that literally got swept away by the floodwaters after they came raging through the region. The torrential rain that wreaked havoc on the area not only resulted in flash flooding, but it also destroyed the ground so much that the bus had no chance of surviving. I mean, talk about Mother Nature's wrath. She basically turned the earth into water and this bus into a boat. It kinda put a whole new spin on whitewater rafting, doesn't it? The next time you get caught in a little downpour, maybe think twice about complaining. Because let's be honest, it could be a lot worse. Imagine being that tourist bus. European heat wave. Everyone loves a heat wave, am I right? But what happens when the temperature soars so much there's just no escaping it? 2019 saw the hottest June Europe has ever had, with an all-time record high temperature of 46 degrees Celsius or 118.4 degrees Fahrenheit in Varax on June the 28th.
A picture of summertime in Paris.
In Paris, people were so desperate to cool down, they jumped into any body of water they could find, including the fountains, which are normally off limits. There's nothing normal about this kind of heat wave, and it's evident of just how bad climate change is becoming. Even in the UK, where a heat wave normally lasts for 1 or 2 days per year at a time, temperatures became unbearable. At Glastonbury Festival in England, the lines to fill up water bottles were longer than the lines to get beer, and that's really saying something. I guess we better start being nicer to Mother Nature, or things will continue to get hotter around here. Excuse me for a sec, I think I need to stick my head in the freezer. Bangladesh Cyclone 2020. As if 2020 wasn't bad enough already, Mother Nature decided to throw a cyclone into the mix. In May in Bangladesh and the eastern part of India, a super cyclonic storm called Amphan swooped in, battering the regions with winds of up to 190 kilometers per hour. This is the strongest storm the region has seen in over a decade, and with a formidable force too. It destroyed the area, leading to more than 2.5 million people having to be evacuated from their homes to be housed in temporary shelters. Not to mention the crazy flooding, the power outages, and the collapses of bridges and homes. And of course, with the COVID virus pandemic, this is a double blow to the area. Oh, Mother Nature, please give us a break already. Dam collapse in Brumadinho. The Brumadinho Dam disaster happened in 2019, on the 25th of January, when the dam experienced some problems and suffered from a catastrophic failure. Just look at how the land falls away and the gush of mud starts approaching. I'd be running for my life. And the worst part of all is that the company monitoring the dam knew there was problems. Although they'd only been classified as low-risk problems, I smell a rat. I mean, this is a serious disaster. It occurred just 3 years and 2 months after the Mariana Dam disaster of 2015, which completely wiped out the village of Bento Rodrigues. That was considered to be the most horrific environmental disaster in the history of Brazil. But if the Brumadinho disaster is anything to go by, I'd say the Mariana Dam disaster has some stiff competition. Wouldn't you agree? Iran blizzard of 1972. Back in 1972, 200 villages in Iran were wiped out by the craziest blizzard to ever hit the country. I'm not talking about your average snowstorm that leaves you snowed in. Oh no. I'm talking up to 26 feet of snow being dropped over the course of 5 days. That's like 2.5 stories worth of snowfall. You kids out there are probably thinking how much school you get to skip, right? Snow days for weeks. While villages were buried beneath the snow, cars were crushed and trains were buried. If you were looking down on the scene, you'd probably think you were flying over a ski resort or a snowy mountain range. But nope, it was just mounds and mounds of snow-covered villages. When the blizzard finally calmed down, helicopters came to transport rescue workers, and in one village, they dug for 2 whole days to try to uncover the place. I probably shouldn't grumble the next time I gotta clear my driveway then, huh? Greek wildfire. The phrase, "it spread like wildfire," is the only way to describe what happened in Greece in 2019. Hundreds of people had to be evacuated from their homes as the fire broke out, demolishing the forest as it made its way to nearby villages. More than 200 firefighters were at the scene trying to control the fire, along with 75 fire engines, 7 police, and 9 helicopters. The fire started because of a combination of strong winds and a high temperature of 40 degrees Celsius, or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Mother Nature is a real fire starter when she's angry, that's for sure. The smoke was even seen over Athens, 110 kilometers or 70 miles from where the fire started. Italy and Spain even jumped in to help, sending planes with water in an attempt to put out the blaze. But once fire gets going, it's no easy feat to stop it. A bit like Mother Nature then, and she seems in no hurry to stop these disasters. Hurricane Harvey. Ever experienced a hurricane? Well, this one is for the books. Hurricane Harvey tore its way through Texas and Louisiana in August 2017, leaving devastating floods in its wake. Houston was literally left underwater as the hurricane made landfall. It was just a Category 4 hurricane, the second highest classification of hurricanes, so you can just imagine the damage it caused. A whopping $125 billion worth of damage to be exact. Mother Nature makes us pay, but this is just too much. Harvey was the first hurricane to make landfall since Hurricane Wilma back in 2005. And I guess after 12 years, Mother Nature decided to come tearing back with a vengeance. And that she did. To date, Hurricane Harvey is the wettest tropical cyclone the United States has ever experienced. Thousands of homes were destroyed, with up to 30,000 people being displaced. And forget about driving. The roads became rivers, and boats were the only mode of transport. Come on now, can we just ease up just a bit, please? If only. Just wait until you see what else Mother Nature has in store for us. El Reno Tornado 2013. In central Oklahoma, on the evening of May the 31st, 2013, one of the largest and most powerful tornadoes in recorded history occurred. It set records of up to 2.6 miles in width, becoming known as the widest tornado ever, and storm chasers dashed to the scene to get their fill. It quickly became a multiple vortex tornado, which resulted in dozens of tornadoes forming in the days afterwards. Although it didn't cause that much damage, the recorded winds within the tornado were up to 302 miles per hour, or 486 kilometers per hour, which is the second highest wind speed ever recorded on Earth. I mean, you wouldn't want to be anywhere near that thing. Can you imagine what it must be like trying to outrun a tornado? No, thank you. Clearly, I could never be a storm chaser. Chile earthquake of 1960. Earthquakes are no rare occurrence on our planet, but did you know the 1960 Valdivia earthquake, or the Great Chilean Earthquake as it's better known, is the most powerful earthquake recorded in the history of all earthquakes? It was a 9.4 to 9.6 on the Richter scale, which is insane, and it lasted for around 11 terrifying minutes. And it wasn't just felt in Chile. Nope, the earthquake was so huge, its effects were felt thousands of miles away, from Japan to the Philippines and even in New Zealand. All along the Chilean coast, there were waves up to 25 meters high. Imagine surfing those. It left more than 2 million people homeless, and 15 hours later, more than 6,000 miles away in Hawaii, a 35-foot wave crashed into an island there, causing absolute chaos. Better get on your best behavior, guys. Let's hope Mother Nature never gets this angry again. Lake Nyos disaster. Looking at Lake Nyos in Cameroon today, it's hard to imagine that on the 21st of August, 1986, it experienced a limnic eruption which had devastating effects. A limnic eruption is a lake overturn, so basically the eruption caused about 1.6 million tons of CO2 to be released all at once. The cloud of gas raced down to the nearby villages at around 62 miles per hour, and that's when disaster struck. And the strangest thing of all is that it was a complete mystery. No one could figure out how this happened. Some geologists claim it was a landslide, but others believe that a volcanic eruption may have taken place. Whatever the cause, it's safe to say that it was absolutely monstrous. But luckily, since then, a special degassing system has been set up in the lake to avoid another catastrophe like this ever happening again. Well, that's a relief, isn't it? Dallas Tornado 2012. A freak of a tornado tore through the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex on April 3, 2012. And when I say tornado, I actually mean tornadoes. plural. There were up to 22 tornadoes reported. Entire neighborhoods were completely ripped up, with entire roofs torn off the houses, leaving the insides open for all to see. The strongest of these tornadoes caused up to $400 million worth of damage. But believe it or not, there was not one fatality. At least Mother Nature spared us that. The most insane part was that the tornadoes literally picked up trucks that weigh at least 12,000 pounds, and that's when they're empty, and threw them into the air. Now that's some power. Look at them. They're just floating through the sky. It's freaky. Tangshan earthquake. The 1976 Tangshan earthquake, most commonly known as the Great Tangshan earthquake, occurred on the 28th of July at around 3:42 in the morning. It measured 7.6 on the Richter scale and destroyed up to 85% of the buildings in Tangshan. All services were lost, and very quickly, it became the second deadliest earthquake the world had ever seen. 15 hours after it happened, there were major aftershocks, measuring up to 7.1, which increased the death toll even more. It seems that Mother Nature really raged with this one, and many people criticize the government for not doing enough to predict the earthquake. Usually these kinds of things can be detected beforehand, but this one came without any warning. Well, that's what I call a real disaster. Haiti earthquake 2010. 7.0 on the Richter scale may not seem much after hearing about the Chilean earthquake of 1960, but for Haiti, when this earthquake struck on January the 12th, 2010, it was one of the biggest disasters the country had ever suffered from. Because it happened at just 6.2 miles below the surface of the earth, its effects were unbelievable. It affected more than 3 million people, and Haiti being one of the poorest countries in the world, you can only imagine how awful this was for them. Can you remember when this happened? I watched it on the news, and I'll never forget how quickly people from around the world clubbed together to help out. It'll forever be known as one of the countries with the greatest need for humanitarian help, and even today, they're still suffering from the after effects that this earthquake burdened them with. Up to 60% of the country live in poverty. This one's made me feel pretty emotional, but there's still 2 more to go. Vargas tragedy. Remember the Vargas tragedy? It was a natural disaster that occurred in Vargas State in Venezuela in mid-December 1999. The entire state's infrastructure completely collapsed after torrential rain caused flash flooding that destroyed thousands and thousands of homes.
A wave which ate everything.
When will these disasters stop? Mother Nature, please, rein it in a bit. It is said that the whole neighborhood of Los Corrales ended up being buried under 3 meters of mud, with most of the homes just being carried away into the ocean. Think of all those people left homeless as their homes and belongings became lost at sea. It's heartbreaking. Some towns completely disappeared, such as Cerro Grande and Carmen de Uria. Truly a tragedy that the world will never forget. Are you ready for Mother Nature's final, but by no means minor, outburst of anger? Oklahoma storm of 2010. So here we are at number 1, when on May the 10th, 2010, Oklahoma was pummeled by thunderstorms that caused some seriously significant damage. The storms quickly turned into tornadoes, which is pretty scary in itself, with winds of up to 60 miles per hour. There were even hailstorms reported that were so big they were likened to softballs. As if a thunderstorm wasn't big enough, throw in some massive hailstones and okay, a tornado or 36. Yeah, that's not a joke. 36 separate tornadoes were recorded to have taken place in the area, resulting in up to $595 million worth of losses. Wow, okay, Mother Nature, we hear you loud and clear. We need to start being kinder to you, and maybe then you'll stop throwing all these natural disasters at us. So which one of these natural disasters terrified you the most? Nature is insane, isn't it? Let us know in the comments section below if you've ever experienced disaster like the ones mentioned today. And before you go, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Only then will Mother Nature spare you. Just kidding, or are we?